Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you theoretically how you can send a post request. Okay, so this class is called call API login async task. So we want to log in. So I'm going to extend that class a little bit or add a parameter here to the constructor. So username will be a string and then the password will also be a string. Okay, so that's the idea behind this login class. Of course, we need to pass something here. So here I'm just gonna say Dennis will be the username and the password will be something like 123456, the greatest password of all. All right, so now we can use the username and password which are passed to us, so from here, in order to log in. So how would we do that? Well, we send a request. So far we have seen how we can get a request or send a request that will give us information. Now let's see how we can use a request that will send information. So we are also in the do in background method and we had this do input, do output. And instead of using this response code and result and everything in here, I'm just gonna add some more lines of code. So underneath this connection, do input, do output stuff. So I'm gonna say connection, and here you can set something like instance follow redirects. So for example, if you want to follow any redirect that the web page starts or not, you can make sure that this will not happen. So this is just another example of what you can change when it comes to your connection. So this is just another parameter. Okay, but now comes the interesting part. So you can set the request method by doing connection dot request method, and here you can set multiple different values. So you can either use get, post, head, put, pull, options, trace. So there are multiple different ones, and I'm just going to use the post one. So be aware that you can not just send post requests, but you can use other request methods here as well. Okay, but we're just going to use the post request. Now when doing that, you can set the request properties. Okay, connection dot set request property, and here, for example, the content underscore minus type should be application slash JSON. So the request property will be JSON, then the character set that I want to use, so connection dot set request property, for example, char set will be UTF-8 and so forth. So you can set different properties here. All right, so I'm gonna add another one which is going to be accept application JSON. So basically you can see content type application JSON. There are different types. So you can see XML also exists, CSV, different types are available here. And then the style here or the char set is UTF-8, but you can see there are different char sets. So ISO 88591, then UTF-16. So there are multiple different char sets that you could potentially use, but I'm going to use the UTF-8 here and the content type being application JSON. So these are just the request properties. And by the way, if a property exists, it will just override its value with a new value. So if the key, for example, accept or char set or whatever already exists, it will just override it. All right, and then the next thing is that we can set whether we want to use caches or not. So connection dot use caches can be set to false, for example. So some protocols do caching of documents. Occasionally it is important to be able to tunnel through and ignore the caches. For example, if the reload button in the browser is used, if the use caches flag in a connection is true, then the connection is allowed to use whatever caches it can. And if false, caches aren't to be ignored. So we're just going to ignore caches here. All right. And now, instead of reading data, which we did with this buffered reader and the input stream reader, we're going to write data. So now we can go ahead and create a write data output stream, which will be data output stream, and it needs our connection here. And to be precise, the connections output stream. So here output stream. Okay, so we have the connection, we set everything up, and now we can write data. And which data do we want to write? Well, we want to write JSON objects to it. So I'm just going to create a JSON object here, which I'm going to call JSON request. And this will be a JSON object, an empty JSON object for now. And then I can put information to it. So I can, for example, put the username to it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to say the username should be username. And then another JSON request put. So in this case, it will be put the password. Password. So these are the ones that we get from our constructor here. So username and password, of course, when we create an async task, we need to pass in the username and password. All right. So that is how we can prepare the JSON request. And now we actually need to write that. So let's write data output stream dot write bytes. So now we're going to write some bytes. And which bytes are we going to write? Well, our JSON request to string. And now we can flush our write data output stream and close it. So flush and write data output stream, close. So this will write the underlying output stream as a sequence of bytes. Each character in the string is written out in sequence by discarding its high 8 bits. If no exception is thrown, the counter written is incremented by the length of s. So you can see that basically we're just writing whatever we have created as a JSON object here to whatever we sent the data to. All right, and unfortunately we cannot test this yet, and we will see how to test that later on, and we will use different tools in the future as well, but I just wanted to quickly show you how it would be done theoretically. All right, so I'd say let's go over to the next video where we're going to see how we can make all of that a lot easier. So this whole JSON object part, and make that significantly easier by using a third-party library. So see you there.